You are watching SABC News live from Johannesburg. Your headlines this hour. Floyd Shibambu has been appointed Secretary General of the MK Party, replacing Sifiso Maseko, who resigned from the position.
The impact of load shedding would really have the effect on the medium size and especially the small SMEs.
The City of Johannesburg says it will have a meeting with Electricity Minister Dr. Hosienzo Ramakgopa and Eskom tomorrow as it tries to resolve the debt issue that has led to the power utility threatening to interrupt power supply to the metro. City of Joburg Community Development MMC and former Mayor Kabelo Gwamanda has been fired with immediate effect. Welcome to the week ahead. We are live with you from our SABC News studio here in Johannesburg for the next 2 hours. Good afternoon. I'm Mahikeng. If you'd like to participate, please give us a call to share your comment or ask a question. The number is right on your screen at 011-714-0680 or 81 or 82. It's wonderful to have you with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us here at the week ahead. EFF leader Julius Malema says the departure of some senior party leaders does not signal the beginning of the end for the Red Berets. This comes in the wake of the resignation of the party's former national chairperson, Advocate Darlin Mpofu, to join the Umkhonto weSizwe party this week. Speaking to the SABC News, Malema said the departure of these leaders does not mean the party is falling apart.
Since its formation almost a year ago, the Umkhonto weSizwe party is still causing political havoc. And during the 2024 general elections, it has proven not to be taken lightly when it unseated the EFF as the third largest party in the National Assembly. Now MKP has its eyes in further strengthening itself. Recently, the party has been a beneficiary of the departures of some senior EFF leaders, with the party's former national chairperson, Advocate Darlin Mpofu, being the latest addition to former President Jacob Zuma's party.
After a lot of soul searching, I've taken a decision that I will be joining MK. And as I say, I'm joining MK because I believe that it is the vehicle through which we will achieve the much needed black and progressive unity. And with reports that more are still to leave the Red Berets, maybe a question to the EFF leader Julius Malema: is the July movement falling apart?
It can't fall apart because you can't destroy that which you have not built. It is our own child, it's our own baby, and we will decide what we do with it. The EFF is the future, and it cannot be destabilized by opportunism.
With a straight face, it seems Malema doesn't have any hard feelings against Zuma, who seems to be welcoming these EFF leaders in numbers to his party.
I don't have any relationship with President Zuma. We are political contenders. He's a leader of a political party. I'm a leader of a political party. That's where our relationship starts and ends. Where we agree on issues, we'll share a common perspective. Where we disagree, we'll disagree respectfully so.
The EFF will hold its third elective conference in Johannesburg next month. And all eyes will be on the position of Deputy President of the party after Floyd Shibambu left for rival MK party. SABC News, Johannesburg.
City of Johannesburg Community Development MMC and former Mayor Kabelo Gwamanda has been fired with immediate effect. Gwamanda has been released from all his executive duties by Executive Mayor Dada Morero after being on special leave last month. This follows his alleged involvement in a fraudulent funeral policy scheme. Kwamanda was granted bail in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court on a fraud charge last month. In a statement, Executive Mayor Dada Morero says Kwamanda's immediate release aims to ensure that the city's service delivery remains uninterrupted. Kwamanda was placed on special leave 3 weeks ago. Some political parties and COSATU in Gauteng have been calling for his dismissal. Morero has appointed Debo Nkunko as Kwamanda's replacement. The resignation of the 4 Patriotic Alliance MPs from Parliament is not due to any infighting or punishment. This is according to a member of the party's National Executive Committee, Charles Silius. 4 out of the 9 PA MPs have recently resigned. The party's leadership says they will be redeployed elsewhere in the party.
After 5 months in the National Legislature, Katrina de Bruin, Stacey Lee Gojane, Gavin Jonas and Cleo Wilskut have bowed out. At the age of 20, Wilskut was the youngest ever member of Parliament. According to party leadership, this was not brought on by anything negative.
We have high party discipline, and we're very proud of our members for heeding our requests. And when I say there's nothing strange about it, it's not as a result of any particular incident or bad blood or any kind of punishment or anything like that. All of these people will continue to be members of the party and they'll continue to have jobs.
He added that while final arrangements are still to be made, De Bruin will rejoin the Beto municipality in the Garden Route. Gojane will move to the office of the Minister, Gayton Mackenzie. Jonas will be redeployed to the provincial PA office, while Wilskut is likely to become involved in communications in the party. The party has identified the new members who will be deployed to Parliament.
We've got the PA's national chair, Marlon Daniels. We've also got Saintus van Wyk, one of the earliest members of the PA, who's been with us all these years. Then there's Ratika Tagadin. She was in Cape Town City Council. She'll be going in. And then there's a leader from the Northwest, Lorato Matupa. Those are the 4 people.
Salier says the party leadership is happy with how it performed during the first few months in Parliament. After the May 29 elections, the PA was one of the new parties in Parliament. The party joined 10 others to form the Government of National Unity. Zaleen Merrington, SABC News, Parliament.
The City of Johannesburg says it will have a meeting with Electricity Minister Dr. Hossein Soramakgopa and Eskom tomorrow. This in an attempt to try and resolve the debt issue that has led to the power utility threatening to interrupt power supply to the metro. Eskom says the City of Johannesburg owes it 6.3 billion rand. It says it can no longer afford to accommodate the city's non-payment without putting further financial strain on and harming its own business.
The dispute between the City of Johannesburg and Eskom threatens to leave residents and businesses in the economic hub in darkness. Eskom issued a public notice saying the non-payment of bills by the city is contributing to the growing municipal debt, which was at 90 billion rand as of the end of September. The city, on the other hand, says there is an ongoing dispute regarding overbilling of over 3.4 billion rand. The Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the businesses in the city are at risk of their operations being disrupted, and this may lead to job losses.
The impact of load shedding would really have the effect on the medium size and especially the small SMEs, because they don't have the resources to invest in alternative energy solutions like generators or solar. So that would force them to close their businesses and also to create unemployment as well. And several of our members are also in the manufacturing sector, and this would also impact the manufacturing sector because, once a production cycle is started and there's load shedding, they can't continue the cycle from where they stopped. They'd have to go right to the beginning. So it's all that material, equipment wasted. So it's very costly, and it will really cause businesses to close, and it will really increase the rate of unemployment as well.
The JCCI says it's consulting with the city and legal minds to understand where business stands in this case.
JCCI is actually in consultation, or will be having consultation with our legal stakeholders as well. And in fact, at JCCI, we have a property cluster. Our Vice President, Karen Southerns, she's very, very active and engaging with the city on different areas in different matters. So she would also play a very important role in seeing how members and businesses will not be impacted and how they can also be compensated in the event that there is load shedding.
Eskom has invited interested and affected parties to submit written representations, comments or submissions indicating why it should or should not proceed to interrupt electricity supply to the points mentioned in its public notice. The power utility says a final decision on whether it will proceed with the power interruption will be communicated after a review of the representations on 12 December. Gloria Safakomosi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now to this, the South African Union of Spaza Shops has urged South Africans to refrain from renting out their yards or garages as Spaza shops. Some Mangaung residents in the Free State who have been renting out their places for decades to foreign nationals have complained that their tenants end up controlling them. About 127 learners from across the province received medical attention for suspected food poisoning during the week. The recent incidents have pushed disgruntled Mangaung residents to close most foreign national-owned shops and some warehouses operating around Bloemfontein.
Ensuring that South Africans start consuming valid goods, the South African Union of Spaza Shops believe they have a solution. The organization that advocates the rights of local Spaza shop owners believe the high rise of food poisoning incidents among children could be resolved by utilizing many unemployed environmental health graduates.
The unemployed people in different communities, some of them are environmental health practitioners that studied, meaning it can be their duty to make sure that they check each and every store on a weekly basis where they order from and whether that those stores that they order from are stores that have SAB logos on them, they are regulated and they meet the regulations of South Africa.
Those who have been renting out their places as Spaza shops have revealed that it hasn't been an easy journey.
We had a very bad experience when we were renting out the store to these foreign nationals. It's been years they've been staying here, but then they like to, where they are staying, they want to stay at their own terms. They don't want to take what we tell them as the owners of the place. So we ended up asking them if they have papers, but then they'll just tell us, there's no law in South Africa. Why would we want the papers? They want to pay rent according to them. They will tell us we're not making money, but yet we are here. We can see how many clients they have. So we ended up not being in good terms, and then we told them no, because you don't want to listen to us, you want to control us in our space, then it's better you leave. It's like the arbiter when you chase them at your own space.
On October 24th, it was exactly 10 years since they've been here, and they were paying me 600 rand. I've previously told them I'd be increasing the rent, and they said only after they've extended the shop, of which they decided on an extra 400 rand. They are disrespectful, especially the owner. He's very disrespectful and regard my home as his. He wants to control me, and I don't understand because this is my place. I wanted them to leave because I was unhappy with them. They are untidy. These residents have been advised to start their own shops.
I'd like to advise our fellow South Africans who are renting out their garages to consider the fact that with that little money of rent that they've been getting for the past decades of years, it's high time for them to open those Spaza shops for themselves.
Government have previously been warned about unregulated businesses. It has also been mentioned that the Licensing Act of Spaza shops in the province need to be enforced.
As a country, we were very negligent in terms of allowing people who have no right to being in this country to sell food to the most vulnerable members of society who have no choice but to buy these things. And because they can do as they wish, no one is keeping tabs on what they do, what they sell, how they sell it. They can do all these things and cut corners and do all sorts of things. Now, what we're saying is when you press the reset button, then we must say, look, all these people that are here need to clear out our locations. Because a society that is not in charge of its own economy will then be subjected to this kind of nonsense that we see in our locations. So what we are saying is that let us take our power back, take our economy back, ensure that our people are able to then serve the communities that they live in. There's a reason why they've decided to infiltrate and enter the informal sector. One, because it's highly unregulated. They can do as they wish.
National African Federated Chamber of Commerce and Industry has further indicated that local people had to close their shops and rent out their properties due to unfair competition that was created by foreign nationals. 29 people who were arrested for public violence following the looting of some Spaza shops in Mangaung are expected to appear in court next week. Refile Mekwa, SABC News, Bloemfontein.
Well, this is Week Ahead. Thank you for being with us, but you don't have to go anywhere. We will continue at the top of the hour. Stay tuned. You are watching SABC News live from Johannesburg. Your headlines this hour.
To assess the situation in each and every individual household so that we can have measures to assist them.
The Mahikeng local municipality says the extent of the flood damage will be assessed following heavy rains as residents say water poured into their homes.
We are the opposition. We are now in power. Other countries must realize at some point the opposition will be in power.
Newly elected President Advocate Dumaboko wants the ruling political parties to be aware of the opposition. Full operations have resumed at the Lebombo port of entry at the border between South Africa and Mozambique. Welcome back to the Week Ahead here on the SABC News channel. We are live with you from our Johannesburg studios. Mahikeng, you are still welcome to participate in our conversations. Give us a call on our studio number 011-714-0680 or 81 or 82. Thank you for staying with us. Now, let's have a look at stories that made headlines in the Sunday newspapers. And we will start with the Sunday Times this afternoon. They lead us with Madiba House, feud that turns ugly. It's a story about Nelson Mandela's grandchildren there vowing to fight the sale of the historic family home in Houghton. Of course, a row has broken out over Nelson Mandela's family home in the Houghton, Johannesburg, as you can see in your picture, with at least 3 of his grandchildren preparing court papers to fight a possible sale of the property, which has fallen into despair. But you cannot ignore this one, can you? This story that keeps developing by day by Lizeka Tandwa, looking into the EFF, all eyes on Ndlozi Malema cleans house. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, touted as a contender for EF deputy president, could be next to desert the party following claims that he too is being caught to join the MKP. All these amid speculations that he could desert the party following the defections of high-profile members the likes of Dalimpofu, as well as Floyd Shibambu, who was just here a couple of minutes ago. Of course, they've all left to join the MK party. Now, moving on to the city press, leading with metric papers there. Metric papers exam printing mystery is continuing to grab headlines on the newspapers, especially Sunday newspapers. It's about the Basic Education Department allowing provincial departments to outsource the printing of exam papers instead of using the government printing works, ostensibly to avoid leaks. It raises concerns, of course, about corruption and price gouging. And then moving to another Sunday newspaper headlines. Let's now move to Sunday Tribune. The headline we are looking at there is City pays millions on staff safety. It's a story about managers saying security costs are bankrupting eThekwini municipality and hampering service delivery. A story that will definitely be capturing people's emotions there, especially because service delivery is one of the big stories that continue to grapple with some of the municipalities in the country. But this time, of course, at the eThekwini municipality. You also have the headline there that you cannot ignore. Zulu British royals met by protesters. Craziness in inverted commas. I think this is one of the stories that I think is on everyone's mouth right now. This is about Prince William's tour being disrupted by angry protesters. And you might have seen a woman as well trying to force her way, demanding to see King Misuzulu Kazolitini at the King Shaka International Airport, where President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Zulu monarch were unveiling the statue of King Shaka. Now, moving on to the next newspaper headlines found on Sunday World. ANC comrades plotted my prosecution. That is being said by Zizi Godwa, of course, the ex-minister, saying criminal charges against him were politically motivated and designed to publicly humiliate him and prevent him from going to parliament. And of course, these are some of the stories that continue to make headlines. Of course, we also have this one here on Sunday World. The emotionally charged former ANC spokesperson revealing that he had endured a difficult journey following his arrest on corruption allegations. These allegations included claims that Godwa received a 1.68 million rand from his co-accused businessman, Mahikeng. So far, we know that that matter has been thrown out of court. Those were your newspaper headlines making top stories today. Now to these, residents of Extension 39 in Mahikeng Northwest are calling for the authorities to install stormwater drainage in their area. They say during rainy season, their houses get flooded with water and their furniture damaged. Some of the residents have started to count their losses following heavy rains over the weekend. For more, we now bring in our reporter, Zebulon Maine, live from Mahikeng in the Northwest. Zebulon, talk to us. I mean, how is the situation currently? We saw heavy rains pouring in overnight and, of course, even day before yesterday. What is the situation right now on the ground?
Thank you very much, Mahikeng. Yes, indeed, Mahikeng and the surrounding areas have experienced some torrential rains since Friday. But here in Extension 39, we haven't seen rain since yesterday. This comes after this resident, some of their houses were flooded with water. But we are in phase 2 of Extension 39, where most of the houses were damaged. I will allow my colleague Tumelo Tlhabetsi just to show you around that the majority of the residents here are trying to dry their clothes that were that got water. And as where we are right now, we are going to talk to Boitumelo Ramadile. As you can see on our visuals here, she's trying to dry those clothes that were watered by the rain. Her house were flooded by water. But Mama, thanks very much for joining us. Re itse gore maabane ne re lefa en gara khona go tsena mo ntlong ya gago ka metsi a neng atamile me ra bona gore at least re khona go tsena mo jarting ya gago. Re tlhalosetse fela ka boripana gore ke eng se ileng gore se senyegile mo ntlong ya gago o re bontshe le di damage tseo.
Dio tse di senyegile mo ntlong ya ka ke diraka di
re bontsha mama.
Diraka di wile ke diraka di wile stofo se ga se bereke ke re metsi a tsena mo tagantlo sa thama stofo se ga se bereke sentle lo le la bona e wile fridge go re pegile go dimo ga ditena la bona gore go dimo ga ditena ke re e go dimo ga ditena ka lebaka la gore metsi a tlala mo ntlong a tlala right through hala ka pula ena ntlo e thama metsi gona motho se itseng gore go fa go a thama so ya no fridge e tla bitswa e sokodisa ke sentse ke ntshe ditšhelete ke e bankanye this way re pegileng go godimo stofo ga se sa bereka sentle.
Our viewers must be mindful that our pictures will be a bit shaky as we try to move in to the house to check more damages in Mama Boitumelo's house. We understand that even in her bedroom there are some damages. Go senyegileng gape Mama?
Ka fa ke o drop ene ke ya bobedi ya ntla ke ditšolo tsa teng ke tse di go godimo o bona ke dirilane ke pegile go godimo because go a senyega dikubo dia aparo dia bola ya ka ke pegile ko ntle yana bona re ke ntshitse mole e le one se tse senyega tla re o drop wa e bona gore se tse senyega tla re e se tse le bo di bete ke di bete tsa bobedi tsena wa bona go godimo kwa ke maplanka go robega go senyega ke a tsaya ke pega go godimo ke tsa dio ke pega go godimo ka ntlheng ya gore go tlatse go nna le mathata bodiko bo tshwantse ke ise go godimo ke latlhile diaparo tse dintsi thata di ka more tsotlhe tse di tlalametse a nantsa a tsena yana le kamo dithoko yana ke be ke nagana gore ke be ke tsenya stupu mara still a tsena mara a gona o ponthusa mo dontseo
re tlhaloganya gore Mama ga se kgetlo la ntlha metsi a tsena mo tlung ke di furniture tse fentse ileng gore ga jana o ka tswa o di replace
ga ke a replace tsepe ke bete fela mara yone ke ifile ke re ke mosadi wa ga Lawrence Kuntwane because ne ke bereka go go bona aba ampha bete ka re ile ne setse itse di metsi
jaanong Mama re tlhaloganya gore every time ha pula ena metsi a tsena boikuelo jwa gago ko pusong e ka tswa ileng gore o se ka feletsa o iphitlhela ile gore o mo seemong se sentseng yana gangwe le gape ga pula
ke ka itumela thata ile gore ba ka ntirela something sa gore ntlo e bogolo e tshulediwe e go godimo ala ba ka tla ba mpela mokhukhumonte ke nna solang ka ntlo e go godimo ka gore e ko tlatse metsi o tlhadi jarta tsela tswang ko le kaleng kwa a o legela mo teng ga ntlo aka right through gore ke nna la ke nna le mathata ke tsoga forogo ke itlhela ditlhako di sapa mo godimo ga me ha ba ka e tsholetsa fela ke tla itumela thata ga se bophelo bo bo monate yo gore nako le nako wa wena ha o tsoga o bole mo teng ga metsi bana ba dikolong o se itse ba tlhapele ka di bata di flya mo godimo ga metsi.
Thank you very much. That's Boitumelo Ramadile explaining to us that the damages in her house. She's saying that the wardrobes and also some of the kitchen stuff there are broken because of the water that is coming outside into her house, and even here in her bedroom, wardrobe is damaged. But we managed to talk to some other residents in this area who are saying that the majority of their groceries are damaged, and also their furnitures are damaged. But they are calling for the municipality, government rather, authorities to say that if it's possible, they rather be moved from this area to other areas where they are not going to experience this flooding. But also we have seen a Red Cross here in this area trying to assist the communities. They are saying that they are still assessing the situation, but where they managed to assess the situation yesterday, they managed to give those residents a mattress and also the blankets. But we haven't got any a contact from the municipality. We tried to call the mayor of the municipality, even the speaker, or rather the spokesperson of the municipality, with regards to what is it that they are doing as a municipality to assist these communities. But we haven't got any one of them, as their phones are on voicemail currently.
Zebulon Maineth there in Mahikeng in the northwest. Thanks so much for that live crossing. And of course, one of the ladies that spoke to him, talking about the ceiling falling down there. And of course, when she gets up in the morning, she finds shoes floating right in the house. That just gives you a dire picture there in terms of the impact of the flooding that took place in that part of the province. Now to this. All Truck Drivers Forum is planning to embark on a strike tomorrow. Their basic gripe is the employment of foreign nationals and the non-adherence to the minimum wage policy. For more, we are now joined by Sfundiso Beja, Deputy Secretary of the ATFD ASA. Sfundiso, just talk to us, and thanks so much for joining us. Just talk to us in terms of how many drivers will this impact, and can you also give us numbers of foreign numbers, to put it that way, you are complaining about here?
Thank you very much. I cannot honestly confirm the actual numbers of the drivers that are participating. But however, I can confirm that indeed there is a shutdown tomorrow. We've been in communication with quite a couple of organizations in terms of tomorrow's planned shutdown. But I cannot honestly give you a figure in terms of how many drivers will be affected by this.
But what is the aim of all this? What are you hoping to achieve with this particular shutdown?
The ATDF has raised concern not only to this particular administration, but also to the previous administration concerning the challenges we find as drivers, both in the country, even those who cross the borders. These challenges are not quite new to the government. They've been challenges that we have raised over and over and over. But seemingly, the attention is not being given to them, and we've written some couple of emails here and there, but nothing has been done. We've had some meetings with the ministers and many other stakeholders who are involved in this, but unfortunately, the drivers' issues are yet to be addressed properly in the manner that that suits the parties involved.
I mean, we have seen this kind of developments or this kind of stories, Sfundiso, a couple of years ago, truck drivers blockading roads. And my next question is, how differently is this going to be done, and what different results are you expecting?
Look, we are aware that the nature of protest on its own sometimes can be uncontrollable. Sometimes we can have people who can just come and hijack a peaceful protest and turn it to something that is not. So there is, I guess I would say, a communication that has been given to members who will be participating to do so peacefully, because South Africa is a law-abiding country, so we don't want to have a situation whereby people are not behaving. There are provinces I can confirm, for instance, like the Eastern Cape, which we have spoken here with the MEC of Transport here. We have engaged with him. He seemed to be a person who is keen in listening to us. So what I guess I would say will be the mode of doing things is peacefully moving trucks towards the nearest truck stop. In that regard, no one will be doing anything that is illegal, and no person will be hurt or anything of that nature. So there is no plan of blockage of road or banning of trucks. The ATDF does not have a record or mandate of that nature. So our duty will be to divert all trucks to the nearest truck stop to park, so that we can be able to issue a memorandum to the stakeholders involved.
And one issue that you're raising here, Sfundiso, is that you are actually fighting against foreign nationals. I just want us to underscore that. Is it foreign nationals or illegal foreign nationals? Can you just clarify that for us?
Obviously, the Immigration Act does specify on which foreigner ought to be employed. South Africa is open for everyone. For everyone who come here legally, we support that. But we have figured that majority of the truck drivers who are employed in South Africa are employed so illegally. So our interest is not on the legal people who came to this country through the ports of entry, but is on those who came to this country through illegal means and have been hired through illegal ways.
And just taking it further, what exactly do you mean by non-adherence to the minimum wage policy? Can you just give us a picture there?
The Bargaining Council has some stipulation in terms of how a driver ought to be remunerated, both the minimum wage, the hourly rate, Sundays, and overtime and the likes. But we have seen that great number of companies are not adhering to that. We have companies that are paying drivers a basic of 5,000 rands, a load of 150. So those are the rates which companies are paying our people. But if you go to the Bargaining Council, you will see that the rate of the driver is nothing close to that. And when these matters are being reported to the stakeholders that are involved, we don't see much action being taken. And these transport companies continue to make millions and millions and millions out of our people. And we have all called to the government to take actions in terms of these situations. I can tell you for free of charge, in PE, in the Eastern Cape, we have probably over 10 companies, which we know for a fact that they are paying a basic wage of 5,000 rands, which is not even half of what the driver must be remunerated. So those are some of the issues which we want the government to take full intervention of.
I know this might just sound a weird question, but which routes are you planning to sort of blockade? And how many drivers do you exactly represent as Fundiso?
My brother, as I said earlier on, we are not planning on blocking any road. Remember, we have brothers and sisters as well who will be working tomorrow. So ours is to divert trucks to the nearest truck stops. It's not to have everyone not to go at work tomorrow, but is to make sure that the trucks in general do not move. But not to say we are going to have a situation by no one moves. It's a free country, everyone should move. But our interest, though, is on transport, not on normal civilians. The HDF accounts to a couple of thousands of members from various provinces. We operate in 8 provinces in South Africa. So I cannot necessarily specify how many of our members will be actively involved, but we have invited and are part and parcel of many other organizations that will be there tomorrow.
All right. Thanks so much for clarifying that, Sfundiso. That was Sfundiso Beja, Deputy Secretary General of All Truck Drivers Forum and Allied South Africa. Thanks so much indeed. Some communities along the porous border between South Africa and Zimbabwe are stepping up efforts to combat cross-border crime. Local residents are actively intercepting stolen goods being smuggled into Zimbabwe, including high-powered vehicles and livestock, which have been regularly trafficked across the border in recent years. Community members working along law enforcement agencies say their collaborative efforts are beginning to yield positive results in the fight against these criminal activities. SABC News reporter Lidondo Bobodi has more on this developing story.
Taking on brazen and ruthless criminals, these community members had to summon gigantic courage as crime along the borderline was spiraling out of control. Over the last few years, police intercepted numerous smuggling operations through their intensified intelligence-driven initiatives. Most smuggled vehicles and goods are either hijacked or stolen from Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. However, over the last few months, communities along the borderline have experienced a constant spate of hijackings and livestock theft. This prompted residents and community leaders to take charge of the situation through their community forums. Local farmers have also dug these trenches in the dry Limpopo River as barriers to prevent smuggling of vehicles.
Since the arriving of the MEC and the PC 4 months back, we launched the forum called the Business Forum Against Crime so that we can assist our community and farmers to reduce the high rate of crime. We do that because a lot of vehicles were stolen from our villages and our farmers. They affect a lot of traumatize our people. The other thing that we do now is make a roadblock and stop and search during the night and during the day. Sometimes we work with the police, sometimes we work without the police because the police told us they don't have a manpower, they don't have a more vents.
We do have a backup from the police, and by so doing, we are not afraid, because once we get fear, it means that we are going to have a problem of stolen vehicles, and if we are not fighting, it means that we are going to be taken for granted. That is why, as the community, together with the security and other law enforcement agencies, we come together to try to have this medium-term or short-term plan.
These men say fighting cross-border crime is an Herculean task that requires a great deal of audacity and synergy. They say that they often confront heavily armed criminals who will stop at nothing to get their stolen goods across the Limpopo River. The presence of soldiers is felt here. They are doing everything to curb the crime. The only challenge we have is that when we know that the vehicle has been stolen and smuggled to Zimbabwe, Zimbabwean soldiers will tell us about trespassing.
We get
alerted about stolen cars from Cross-Border Neighbors Watch, and we act. We tracked it, and as we managed to recover it, we call the owners. A victim of a hijacking has recounted a harrowing story of how his vehicle was forcefully taken and later recovered at the banks of Limpopo River. When I was at Chikondeni village, I received a call that the vehicle has been located at Buriburi. My wife called the police station and the cross-border watch. The car was recovered. Limpopo police authorities said they've intercepted hundreds of firearms and vehicles at the borderline of the last months. They attribute their successes to, among others, regular engagements with stakeholders, including farmers, border management authority, and community members.
In the process, we have engaged in a series of meetings led by General Thembi Khatebe with various stakeholders such as the South African National Defence Force, the Border Management Authority, the Traffic Police, Musina Local Municipality, Limpopo Provincial Government, Farmers Association, business community, councillors, traditional leaders, car tracking companies to ensure the safety in the borderline stations. To this effect, an operational plan has been developed and is currently being executed by all law enforcement agencies in the province.
Border Management Authority is yet to comment on the matter. Rutendo Bobori, SABC News, Marare.
Thank you for staying with us here on The Week Ahead. 3 suspects linked to taxi violence-related matters in East London have been arrested by a special task team assigned to prevent, combat and investigate serious and violent crime in the Eastern Cape.
The murders are believed to have taken place between November 2023 and August 2024, in which 2 taxi owners, a taxi driver and a member of a taxi association were gunned down. 2 of the suspects were arrested at Mall of Africa in Midrand on Friday, while another one was arrested in East London on Saturday. 4 other suspects that are also seen in this video have been taken in for questioning by SAPS. Police have seized 4 pistols and an AK-47 from the suspects. These firearms and rifle have been taken in for ballistics testing to determine their linkage to the murders and any other serious and violent crime. This matter is still under investigation and police will not comment further.
The family of a 4-year-old boy who was killed by a dog at Sedgefield near Knysna in the Western Cape is still struggling to come to terms with his death. It is believed Simikuso Simi Nzwaibana was playing with his friends near his home in Smartsville on Tuesday when a pack of dogs chased them. His body was found in a bush later that night.
Simi's friends alerted his family about the incident. He ran into a nearby bush to escape from one of the dogs that was biting him. A search ensued, but by nightfall the police and fire services were also called in. It was around 9 o'clock when the gruesome discovery was made.
While we were searching for him, I had hoped that we would find him alive. However, as time went, I realized that was not going to happen because it was past his curfew time. This has really destroyed us. However, we have no choice but to accept it.
Dogs running around unsupervised is common in many informal settlements. But to prevent such a tragedy, it is important for owners to keep them fenced in.
The NPOs that deal with the dogs and the police and the municipality as well need to come on board to the community and say, this is what the laws say in terms of the dog, so that people can understand. If a dog is wandering around, so there is consequences and there is a penalty that someone have to pay, because that is the situation, and it's really frustrating because you don't know what might happen tomorrow.
Another dog that bit Simi a couple of weeks ago was euthanized. The police have now confiscated a group of dogs from the area, but it is still not known which one is the culprit in his death. Knysna police have opened an inquest docket into Simi's death. Simi's funeral is planned for Thursday. Tanya Krause, SABC News, Sedgefield in the Western Cape.
Well, this week, Cape Town hosts the Africa Tech Festival, showcasing tech's transformative impact on Africa's industries. We couldn't have event director James William live with us here in studio today, but we caught up with him virtually. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about this year's festival.
The event far outdates myself. So the event is 27 years old this year. So started back in 1997 when South Africa and the continent were very different places. So can't claim to have started it, but that's the theme and that's the drive that keeps us going is leveraging the power of technology to further society, to further businesses, help professionalize businesses as well. The theme, it kind of remains the same. It kind of remains the same over the years. It's all about leveraging the power of technology to improve lives and further business. Now, I understand there's a lot of jargon in the business and in the ecosystem. So really for us, it's a special mission around what it means for Africans on a day-to-day basis. So whether that is, your consumer using internet and using technology on a daily basis, or whether it's kind of business or whether it's government. The event is a forum for all those audiences, for leaders, for startups and for government to kind of meet and explore that. A piece of progress that we've made this year is we have an official partnership with the South African government through the DCDT, so the Department of Communications and Digital Tech, and we've worked really hard with them to grow our government attendance at the show, both the delegates that are there and also the sessions that we run. We'll have a ministerial summit as well. So a few ministers from across the continent and international as well to talk about those big blue sky challenges.
Interesting. That was James Williams telling us about this year's Africa Tech Festival. Now, joining me in studio is Daniel Eric Scher, Estonia's ambassador and, of course, one of the exhibitors of Africa Tech. Estonia is one of the world's most digitally advanced societies, and they will be sharing its expertise with Africa at the festival. Mr. Scher, thanks so much for joining us indeed. We appreciate your coming to join us here.
Thank you for inviting me.
What key factors contributed to Estonia's success as the world's most digitally advanced society?
Well, when we restored our independence in 1991, then we realized that we needed to give services to our people. And we didn't have that many people. We're a small country, 1.3 million people. So we had to do it in an efficient way. And we decided to go digital. So in Estonia, almost 100% of the services are online. The one thing that you have to take a little bit more time to do is getting married and getting divorced. They ask you, are you sure? You know.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So in terms of job contribution, because obviously in South Africa we've got issues, the big issue of unemployment. Just talk to us in terms of how that contributed to the issues of jobs, that side.
Well, the big thing that it does is it simplifies bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So the companies can focus on doing business, focus on creating jobs, and focus on creating additional value. So every Estonian saves about 1 week of time of not having to stand in queues. So they're able to be more efficient in their jobs. And also we save about 2% of GDP in terms of costs.
I know that there will be a lot of speakers at this specific festival in Cape Town, but just talk to us about the role that we will be playing there.
Well, for us, we're building a partnership with South Africa. We see the potential of South Africa in digitalization, where they're already very advanced, and our companies are interested in cooperating. For example, everybody probably knows Bolt. It's an Estonian company. They're with us, and also all of our companies who have built up the Estonian digital governance system.
And I'm sure a lot of tech people who are quite interested in this kind of story will be glued to that particular story. But how has Estonia's estate model improved governance, though, and public services?
So the government, everybody has a single number, and you use this same number for every single transaction. From getting born, from the time you're born, you're given this number. It follows you to school, to your driver's license, to university, to paying taxes, to voting. So it makes it easy because you just have one card. You don't have to, have different registrations, and we only give our information once only. So once you've given it to the government doesn't have to ask for it again. So again, it makes the job of the citizen, the life of the citizen easier. They can spend more time with their family, spend more time and work, and don't have to be queuing and waiting for time to get services from the government.
There's always that fear that, during these digital times, the likes of AI are here to take people's jobs. And I think that's the fear that's quite palpable in the streets. But I just want you to just paint a picture for us about the role that digitalization plays in economic growth, perhaps in South Africa as we see it.
So what was happened in Estonia was a public-private partnership. I mean, the government working together with the private sector. And so digitalizing the country built up our IT sector. They now account for almost 8% of the GDP in Estonia. And in addition to that, it's also one of our biggest exports. So for example, last year we exported almost 100 million euros of IT services to South Africa. So I mean, this is an area where we see that there's a lot of areas to cooperate. It creates more jobs, and you can also stay home and do your jobs. So being a digital, exactly, working from home, you don't have to leave your home any longer. And I think that's the key of why the African continent is really interested in digitalizing, because it makes life so much easier.
But what sort of expertise are you looking forward to sharing with African nations at this specific festival?
Well, we've gone through the process. We've gone through the digitalization. We know how to do the strategies. You need the legal basis. The technology is often the easy part because it's all there. It's how do you do the steps to be able to implement the technology, and that's where we're ready to share our experience. But also our companies are ready to build joint ventures, to work together with South African companies, to work in the entire continent. So I think that these are the opportunities where we can share our experiences, but we're also coming to learn from you, because you guys are the ones on the cutting edge at the moment, and you have something to share with us.
Sure. One of the key issues with the ongoing digital era is that there are risks of cyber security. We are aware of that. But what strategies can we make in place or put in place to protect citizens' data and ensure online security?
Well, the first step is to start teaching digital and cyber security in school. So all of our kids already are learning this in school, that you don't open random emails that are sent to you, you don't click on links. If you don't know which phone number has sent you a request on your WhatsApp or whatever your solution is. You don't deal with it. And that's, the safest in terms of security-wise. But again, as I mentioned, we have that single digital identity, which also has very clear options for identifying yourself. One is through your SIM card. One is with an ID card with a chip, and the third one is an app in the smartphone. So we have very secure ways of identifying yourself. And the last thing is we have an interoperability system called the X-Road. So there isn't a big one lake of data. Every ministry keeps their own databases, but they're on the X-Road and the data is shared immediately. And that makes it secure, because if one database is corrupted or is attacked, you take it off the road and the road still works.
Yeah. Quite interesting. I mean, you're talking about bringing this into the classroom, and I wonder, Estonia, what are you planning to sort of do in order to sort of communicate perhaps with the education sector, try to bring this education in the classroom, perhaps even at the early age?
We're sharing our experiences. We're bringing in digital skills training. We have curriculums that we've developed already that we're ready to share. We're very much inviting South Africans to come and visit us in Estonia. Next year in May, we'll have the third Africa Business Forum, which will also be followed by the e-governance conference, which is also one of the top e-governance conferences in the world. And again, Estonia is open to doing business, and we're really looking for partnerships. So that's a win-win for both sides. And that's why we're here. We're here to find these contacts. That's why we're participating in the Africa Tech Festival, because we see it as one of the top events in the continent, and we're here for business. Our foreign minister is joining us and shows how important South Africa is for us.
And how has the response been, though, with regards to your contribution?
No, it's been very open. I've already had meetings with the Minister of Home Affairs, who is obviously very keen on digitalizing things. He has a lot of the registers in his office. We'll be meeting with the Minister of DCDT as well. Yeah. So, I mean, those key ministries are very keen on doing it. The last Deputy Minister of DCDT was in Estonia last year with a delegation. So, I mean, we are building these first relations. We know that we have to meet each other. Those are the first steps, face to face, and then we'll build our relationships from there. So we're really building the base for a long-term relationship.
Mr. Shah, thanks so much for coming through to share this important story with us. We appreciate your coming to studio.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was Daniel Eric Shah, Estonia's ambassador to South Africa, and of course, one of the exhibitors of Africa Tech Festival, which is currently taking place in Cape Town. You don't have to go anywhere. Stay with us. We continue with the news after this break. Welcome back. June and November are popular months for supporting men's mental health. While South Africa gears up to mark this campaign in June, some international campaigns are run in November. This month in South Africa also sees preparations for the onset of the 16 Days of Activism of No Violence Against Women and Children campaign. Today here on The Week Ahead, we look at what mental health support men and boy children receive and require year-round. Joining us today is Paul Nzimande, who is a mental health advocate. He's a motivational speaker and author as well. Paul, thanks so much for joining us. Indeed, just talk to us. I mean, what are the trends? Is men's mental health being discussed more now than ever before? Have we seen that happen in this part of the world in South Africa?
Good day, Mahikeng, and to all the listeners. Yes. There is a certain degree of greater awareness, but if one looks at the context, it's nowhere near what it needs to be. Perhaps just to paint a picture of the context, statistically, men are said to commit suicide at a rate 3 times higher than that of women. But what is that number? The number is 24 suicides per day, 23, 24. Of that, 18 are men. Now, to give a visual picture of what that is, if you take that number of 18 and put it into a stadium like Moses Mabhida, and you put 18 per day, it takes you about 12 years to fill up Moses Mabhida Stadium. Now, 12 years just to get a better picture is just a few years ago, the World Cup, when the World Cup was here in South Africa. So what am I saying? I'm saying from the time that Moses Mabhida was full of those crowds watching the Portugal-Netherlands game till today, the number of men alone in South Africa who have taken their lives is as much as those crowds that were watching that game. So that's the magnitude of the problem. So relative to the problem, there still isn't enough discussion going on. There needs to be more.
Sure, that's a huge number there, Mr. Nzimande. You know, there's an old saying in Sepedi, "Monna kingu lela ding," meaning cowboys don't cry, and I guess that talks to that. Men need to speak out, isn't it? And just perhaps even my next question: has the way in which the subject is tackled markedly changed over the years, in your view?
In my view, and I like that part which says, in my view, if I look at social media discourse, if I look at radio, if I look at some of the conferences we attend, there is a nominal shift. But if you look at the three problems that really we need to tackle, the three challenges are, we need to remove the stigma around men's mental health, we need to promote dialogue, and we need to encourage healing. The stigma, by and large, remains. There is a little bit of conversation, and there certainly isn't enough men reaching out for healing. So holistically, in terms of the three steps, the three things that we need to do, there's still quite a long way to go, and there's still need to intensify the amount of dialogue, the quality of dialogue.
I mean, you're right, and it's said that incidents around men's mental health go underreported. What could be the causes here?
Particularly the stigma. You see, reporting mental health suggests that as a man, you are powerless. And to suggest that you are powerless as a man is to risk being considered weak. And to risk being considered weak is to risk being stigmatized, it's to risk being ostracized, it's to risk even being ridiculed and deprived from what would otherwise be privilege or even favor. When I say favor, I include favor with the other gender, because the reality is that even the other gender could potentially perceive you as weak and therefore not a desirable partner. So for many men, there's an instinctive but also a socialized need to appear strong, and reporting mental health issues can be seen as appearing weak and therefore not the first instinct of a man. We have to become conditioned to this thing, to saying it is okay to say I'm not okay. It's okay to not be okay. And that's really where we need to journey towards. Because once we've removed the stigma, indeed promoting dialogue would be easier, encouraging healing would be easier, but the stigma is the biggest thing, I'd say.
It is, and I agree. But is there enough data or accurate data, Mr. Nzimande, on the manifestations of mental health? Of course, you know, putting into the picture mental health that continues to torment men.
There couldn't be. If I'm right, with some of the papers that one has seen coming from, example, from the University of KwaZulu-Natal around just mental health in general, there isn't enough resource from government just to provide for that. There isn't enough resource to record incidences. And of course, when people are hiding things, you know that it is generally underreported. And if it's generally underreported, then there is generally less sensitivity to what it is. But even where it's recorded, some people may be discouraged from reporting because of how it will be dealt with. I'll make you an example. A friend of mine struggled with prostate cancer, for example. And even after he had come out and said, I'm struggling with prostate cancer, and related to my sickness, I'm having strong mental health challenges, he was ridiculed by some other men for that matter. So you can see that even if people wanted to report, because there is ridicule potentially, even those who are reporting have taken a very strong step of courage, and we need to encourage those who are reporting so that we can at least allow the others who are not reporting to also feel free to report. So they need to create safe spaces for reporting in itself becomes a big issue.
Totally agree there as well. But when looking at phenomena like suicide and gender-based violence, for instance, is there enough research on when and how they are linked, Mr. Nzimande?
There is, I would say we could do more. Let me qualify my answer. I think that there is, but we could do more. It is my observation, and this is a personal observation, that when we report on gender-based violence and its link to the male factor, we tend to isolate gender-based violence from violence. And the main problem is violence. Because if you look at statistically, we will see that men are involved in violence against themselves, being suicide. They're involved in violence against other men. If you look at murder statistics, if we say 27,000 people were murdered, 3,000 are women. We are saying 24,000 were men, and they were murdered by other men. If we say there's alcohol abuse in this country, if we look at the statistics of prisons and how many people are in prison and how many of those are men for violent crime, we generally have a violence problem. So summarize it simply put, men are being violent with themselves, they are being violent with other men, and they are being violent with the rest of society, including women and children. So I say we've put quite a bit of emphasis on gender-based violence. I'd say let's blanket it and deal with violence, and then we will be able to deal with all its manifestations, including violence to self, including violence to women and children, and just deal with, because also it helps us trace the roots. When we do root cause analysis, we will do root cause analysis of violence, and then its form in its different forms. That would be my submission.
Thanks so much indeed. Paul Nzimande there, who is a mental health advocate and a motivational speaker and author, talking about mental health that affects men and boy children. Quite an important conversation there. Now to this. Newly appointed Umkhonto weSizwe Secretary General Floyd Shivambu says his appointment is justified because he is competent. The party confirmed the appointment earlier today. Shivambu became the MK Party's national organizer after resigning from the EFF in August. He was one of the EFF's founding members alongside Julius Malema in 2013. Shivambu says the MK Party leader Jacob Zuma makes decisions that benefit party members. He spoke to SABC News political editor Mzwandile Mbeje earlier on.
You would agree with me that there's been quite a high turnover of the Secretaries General. I mean, you've just come into this position, so there were so many people before you, and the party's not even a year. So is Floyd Shivambu going to last in this position, or is another 2 months and then you're out, somebody comes in?
No, look, I think there has to be context as to understanding that. So, you know, one of the things which we have to say to the people of South Africa is that President Jacob Zuma knows what he's doing in terms of founding this organization. And at the founding stages, when certain things foundationally do not make sense, they have to be changed so that the foundation is not defected, the foundation is not corrupted in the manner that it is. So there have been changes of Secretary General positions 2 times. The other responsibility that was changed was due to the incumbent SG being a member of parliament. And Umkhonto weSizwe, there's a principle that you can't be a member of parliament and be a Secretary General. So when Sihle Ngubane was Secretary General, when he accepted the responsibility of being a member of parliament, he had to vacate the position. And now Dr. Maseko has other obligations as a government employee. But the other changes were due to political considerations to say that these perhaps were not the suitable candidates due to one reason or another. And in terms of the responsibility that we've been given now, there's a clear mandate of what we have to fulfill. And I'm 100% sure that in terms of the expectations, we will be able to optimally and efficiently, effectively fulfill all the responsibilities. Because one of the things that also defines our president of Umkhonto weSizwe Party, it's zero tolerance to incompetence, zero tolerance to nonsense, zero tolerance to corrupt individuals and corrupt practices. So whenever people do things that are not mandated and outside of the organization, it takes decision immediately. It doesn't work on these things that were closing ranks even when there's wrongdoing. And I'm 100% sure that I'm not that character that will do wrong things. I'm not incompetent. I'm actually like far much more suitable for the responsibility or whatever responsibility that the organization can assign to me. So I think we're in for a long haul in the organization because he will never irrationally take a decision that shifts positions for the sake of it. He does it for sound political, ideological, and organizational purposes and reasons in the manner that it is. So we're here to play the role of Secretary General of Umkhonto weSizwe.
Well, that's how we wrap it up here at the Week Ahead. And thanks so much for joining us. The week continues on the SABC News channel. Do stay tuned. From myself, Mahikeng, and the rest of the Week Ahead team, do take care.